Hey, what's up? I'm Carl and I'm one of the founders of Basket. So, we made this app because, honestly, we used to really struggle with remembering stuff from earlier subjects, especially during long exams where you're tested in multiple subjects. Like, I'd study something, feel like I totally got it, and then a few days or weeks later, it was just gone. Like my brain had hit delete. I remember thinking there has to be a better way to actually remember what I learn long term, not just cram and forget. That's when we came up with something we now call rotational learning, which you can do in the Basket app. It completely changed how I study. And the cool part? It's just 3 super simple steps. It's honestly kind of wild how something this straightforward can boost your memory so much. Anyway, I've had a bunch of people on Reddit asking how to actually use this method, so I figured, why not just walk you through it? We'll start from the beginning. I'll be using medical topics as an example since that's my background. But really, this works for any subject that has a ton of content. Alright, here's how it works. 3 steps. First, pick a subject, preferably the one with the most stuff to memorize. Then rotate to new topics while building connections between them. And finally, lock it all in with practice tests. That's it. Simple, right? Okay, let's dive in. Here's what you'll need: the Basket app and your favorite reviewer or QBank. Alright, before we dive in, let me show you around real quick so you know where everything is. Once you log in, you'll land on your homepage. That's where you'll see your workspaces. Think of these as folders for your different exams. You can name them however you want, like PLAB, USMLE, or whatever you're studying for. And right above that, you'll also see public workspaces. These are ones other people have shared, and you can actually import them into your own setup if you find something helpful. Cool, let's go ahead and create a workspace. Let's give it a title, Test. Now when you open a workspace, you'll notice 2 main tabs, Baskets and Items. Right now this one's empty, no baskets, no items yet. But once you start adding stuff, this is where everything goes. In the Baskets tab, you'll find filters to sort your baskets by how many items they have, like 1, 2, 3, or more than 4, and by mastery level too, so you can quickly see what needs review and what you've already got down. They'll come in handy later when things start to fill up. In the Items tab, all your items or topics live here. These are the items you'll place in baskets. If you want to add a basket or an item, just click the little plus icon at the bottom. It's super simple. Up top, you'll also spot the Study Mode toggle. That one's great when you want to quiz yourself and hide the answers. And just next to that, there's a Stats section. That's where you can keep an eye on your progress over time. Alright, now instead of creating everything from scratch, let's import a workspace, just to show you what it looks like when it's not empty. I'm going to duplicate this one but leave out the baskets. That way I can start fresh and make my own connections but still save time on setting up items. Let's do it. Alright, let's dive into the first step of using Basket to ace your exams. We're starting with a clean slate here. No baskets yet, but we've already got over 2,000 items in the workspace, which we imported. Now I really like keeping an eye on the stats, especially the volume reduction. Right now it's sitting at 0%, which makes sense because we haven't grouped anything yet. Our goal is to start bumping that number up. Personally, I've found that my sweet spot is around 40% reduction or more. In this case, that would mean taking the full 2,174 items and reducing it down to about 800, meaning about 2,000 less topics to remember. Sounds like a lot, but don't worry, it's totally doable. The other stats? They're pretty self-explanatory. We'll go through them later as we move along, so no need to stress about them right now. So for the first step, I recommend beginning with the subject that has the most material. This strategy helps you create a solid foundation of baskets, which will be invaluable as you connect topics across different subjects later on. In my case, cardiology is quite extensive, so I'll start there. Our first cardio topic is cardiac tamponade. Let's check if it's in our workspace. Great, it's there. I'll study the topic as I normally would. Let's now create a basket for this topic. Here's a key insight when creating a basket. Don't create generic baskets like cardiology. Instead, focus on specific concepts you find challenging. For example, with cardiac tamponade, I struggle to remember the greater than 10 mmHg detail, so I'll highlight this concept and create a basket named greater than 10. This personalized approach makes your study sessions more effective. Remember, this approach is flexible. You might choose to name your basket after cardiac tamponade causes, diagnostic criteria, ECG findings, or treatments, whatever challenges you the most. The goal is to focus on what you find difficult, not just what the textbooks emphasize. If everything feels unfamiliar, pick the concept that seems most important. You can always update your baskets as you go. At this point, the greater than 10 basket only has one topic. It might not seem very useful yet, but trust me, this is laying the groundwork for making powerful connections later. Let's move on to the next topic, acute pericarditis. I'll check if that's in the workspace. Yes, it is. I'll study it as usual. When studying acute pericarditis, I realized that its association with the Coxsackie B virus was a new concept for me. I will highlight this particular concept. To help reinforce this information, I would create a basket labeled Coxsackie and add the topic to it. While I could create a widespread ST elevation basket, I'm already comfortable with that concept, so focusing on Coxsackie allows me to concentrate on the newer, more challenging association. Moving on to mitral stenosis, let's see if it's in the workspace. It is. If it wasn't, I could add a new item using the plus icon. As I study, I realize that the mid-diastolic murmur at the apex is a bit confusing for me, so I highlight that and create a middle basket. I could go with mid-diastolic, but middle feels right for now. And remember, you can always rename baskets later. Once you've gone through all the topics in your starting subject, each will be in its own basket. They might seem isolated now, but this is just the beginning. The real magic happens when you start connecting these baskets with topics from other subjects. Make it a habit to place every item into a basket. You never know how they'll connect down the line. Even if the links aren't obvious now, they'll become clearer as you progress. So, don't worry if your baskets seem unrelated at first. You're building a strong foundation, and the connections will come as you continue using basket. Ready to move on to the next step? Let's keep going. All right, now we're getting into the good stuff. This is where the magic of rotational learning actually kicks in. So after adding all my cardiology topics, I'm moving on to the next subject, pediatrics. I usually go for the next biggest subject, or honestly, something I've just been putting off for way too long. You know that one subject you keep skipping because you know it's going to take forever? Yeah, that one. Now here's where the connections start happening. Remember, the goal isn't to remember everything in isolation. It's to group topics together in baskets so we reduce the volume of what we need to remember by building meaningful links between them. Let me show you how that actually works. And don't worry, I've got a few go-to strategies for this. Let's get started with our rotational learning. Our first pedia topic is Marfan syndrome. Let's check if it's already in the workspace. Yep, it's there. I'll go ahead and study it like I normally do. As I go through it, I ask myself, what's the part I always forget about Marfan? The heart stuff? That's fine. Aortic regurgitation, dissection. I've got those down. But the thing that always trips me up is the lens dislocation. Like, is it upward or downward? I can never seem to keep it straight. So here's what I do when I'm trying to figure out where to place this topic. I pause and I ask myself, what's something that personally makes me think of this tricky concept? Instead of going straight to keyword search, I try to recall, do I already have a topic or basket that naturally sparks this idea? In this case, I'm trying to remember that the lens dislocation in Marfan syndrome is upward. So I ask, what from my earlier topics reminds me of upward? And the first thing that comes to mind? ST elevation MI. That classic upward spike on the ECG. Perfect. So I search for STEMI and it shows me the basket where that topic is stored. In this case, it's inside a basket called 4 weeks. When I check the highlighted concept inside that basket, it says, sex and driving should be resumed 4 weeks after MI. Apparently, that's what I found important about STEMI when I studied it. So I'm going to place Marfan syndrome in that same basket, and I'll add a quick note to explain why, like the ST segment in STEMI, the lens dislocation in Marfan is upward or elevated. And just like that, now the basket 4 weeks has 2 items. Not medically connected, but mentally linked. See what I mean? They're not logically related, but to me they're connected by that simple cue, upward. Or more accurately, 4 weeks. And that's all I need to remember it. That's what matters. And if you noticed, I actually revisited STEMI again during this whole process. Not just the name, but the specific concept I had trouble with or found important. Imagine revisiting something you studied 3 or 4 months ago and keeping it fresh just by learning something new. And hey, if you check your volume reduction stat now, you'll see you've got one less topic to deal with, all because you connected it to something you're already familiar with. Simple move, big payoff. Let's toggle over to study mode. I'm actually on it by default. That way I can quickly test my recall of items as I go. Cool, let me show you a few more examples just to demonstrate this association strategy in action. I once placed X-linked recessive inheritance inside a basket with balanitis. Yep, the glans penis. Why? Because it helped me remember that X-linked conditions mostly affect males. Weird? Maybe. Memorable? Absolutely. Same thing with Lewy body dementia. I always remember the motor symptoms, no problem. But the part I kept forgetting? The visual hallucinations. So I asked myself, what absolutely screams visual to me? And boom, bitoed spots from vitamin A deficiency. So I added Lewy body dementia to the same basket. And I made a note to highlight that it's the visual part I'm trying to remember. See, medical logic can only take you so far. But mental creativity, that's what actually makes things stick. And that's why when I say you can reduce your topics by 40% or more, I mean it. It's totally doable. Now you might be thinking, okay, but what if no association comes to mind? Totally fine. Just search the workspace using keywords. In the case of Marfan, I might type upward. If nothing comes up, no problem. Just create a new basket and name it after whatever cue you're working with. Something like upward, worse prognosis, or acidic. The important thing is, don't leave topics floating. It may seem minor, but if you leave too many topics hanging, they start to build up fast. And you'll miss on potential connections later. Wait, what are the items in the 4 weeks basket again? Why were they connected? And once you start recalling these items more easily, you can go ahead and update the mastery level for each topic. And check this out, as you do that, the basket mastery updates automatically too. And even better, look at the full mastery filter. We've officially got our first basket in there. Alright, let's say we're done placing all our pedia topics. Time to move on to subject number 3, surgery. Let's start with duct ectasia. Let me check if it's in the workspace. Yup, it is, but the concepts are kinda incomplete. I'll add those in. Then I'll study it the usual way. From the name, I know it involves duct dilation, and I remember that the discharge is green or brown. But the part I don't usually remember and find important? Its association with smoking, so I make sure to highlight the smoking link. Now I'll ask myself, is there an existing basket or topic that already reminds me of smoking? Nothing jumps out right away, so I'll search smoking in the workspace. Still nothing. Okay, I'll just make a new basket for it. Simple, but given this smoking basket, you know you're likely to place a few topics in it in the next subjects. Next up, duct fistula. Let's look it up. Yep, it's there. I'll study it looking for difficult concepts. The key concept I want to lock in here is abscess as its cause. Feels high yield. So again, I ask, is there an existing topic or basket that really represents abscess for me? Clindamycin is the first thing that comes off at the top of my head when I think of abscess, as I know it's given for abscess. It's a pharma subject which I haven't studied yet, but no worries. I'll look for it in the workspace and make a basket for it so I can place it together with duct fistula. I'll highlight the pseudomembranous enterocolitis association as its high yield for me. Then make a basket pseudomembranous enterocolitis for it. After that, I'll place duct fistula in it. That's it. Always prioritize personal mental association. While it's nice to be sequential, you don't have to wait for the next subjects if you feel a strong mental association can help you remember a concept. You can always be flexible with placing items. And that's basically the process. You just keep doing this with your next subjects. And even though it might look like you're just organizing things, what you're really doing is deeply processing info by finding relationships. You're focusing on your weak spots while reviewing other topics in the background. It's some form of interleaving where you mix up different topics in a study session. And it's one of the most effective ways to study. The best part? You don't have to wait until the end of your material to start reviewing older stuff. You're doing that naturally as you go. Let's quickly recap what we're doing here just to make sure it sticks. For step 1, you want to pinpoint that sticky concept in your topic. This is the detail you always struggle with. Ask yourself, what part do I always mess up? That's the thing you want to lock in. Moving to step 2, find your personal mental link. Don't just jump to obvious keywords. Instead, ask yourself, what topic do I know that strongly evokes this concept? Something you've already studied, even if it seems completely unrelated, might be the perfect trigger for your memory. For example, when learning about Marfan syndrome, I kept forgetting the lens dislocation direction. So I asked myself, what condition do I know that strongly evokes this upward concept? And surprisingly, I thought of ST elevation in myocardial infarction. Completely different topics, but that connection helped me remember both. Another example with X-length recessive disorders, I kept forgetting the male predisposition pattern, so I asked, what condition do I know that strongly evokes this male-only pattern? For me, it connected to balanitis, which only affects males. Making that connection locked both concepts in my memory. For step 3, if you find that link, place your topic in that basket. Remember, the goal isn't to be logical, it's to be memorable. If it helps you remember, then it works. Step 4 comes in when nothing immediately comes to mind. That's when you search your workspace using keywords related to that tricky concept. And if you still find nothing, no stress. That brings us to step 5. Create a new basket. Name it after the concept or cue, something like itchy, 0.5 ml, or high pitch, then drop your topic in. Trust me, it won't stay lonely for long. That little 5-step flow, that's where the magic of rotational learning really happens. You're not just memorizing, you're engaging in higher order thinking skills. You are connecting, targeting weak points, reducing the volume of topics you have to remember, and continuously reviewing without even trying. All right, almost there. Ready for the final step? All right, so once I've gone through all the subjects and placed all items in baskets, the next thing I do to really lock everything in is, yep, you guessed it, practice questions. Because honestly, what better way to prep than doing mock exams, right? Let me show you how I use basket during this phase. Let's say we have this question. A 40-year-old man who had cardiac surgery as a child now has a diastolic murmur at the left upper sternal border. What's the likely diagnosis? Answer: pulmonary regurgitation. So I go ahead and search for pulmonary regurgitation in basket, just to see what basket it belongs to and what other items are grouped with it. Here we go, it looks like it's in my left basket. Now, before I reveal the other items, I like to ask myself 2 quick questions. What are the items in this basket? And why are they connected? Right now, I can only recall one more: congenital diaphragmatic hernia. I remember that because it's more common on the left side. Okay, let's reveal it. In the left basket, we've got carbon monoxide poisoning, pulmonary regurgitation, and congenital diaphragmatic hernia. Since I recalled the diaphragmatic hernia correctly, I'll go ahead and update its mastery. That will reflect in the stats. And now I'll focus on the other 2 items I missed so I can strengthen those connections. But while reviewing, I remember carbon monoxide poisoning's in the left basket because it shifts the oxygen dissociation curve to the left. And pulmonary regurgitation, left upper sternal border diastolic murmur. This is also why it's helpful to add a short description when placing an item in a basket. It gives context and reminds you why it's there. Let's try another one. A 77-year-old woman presents with mild exercise intolerance and an ejection systolic murmur is found. What's the likely diagnosis? Aortic stenosis. Before I even search for it, I like to pause and challenge myself. Which basket might this belong to? And once I find it, I'll ask the same 2 questions. 1. What are the items in this basket? 2. Why are they connected? All right, let's run the search. Looks like we've got 2 matches. Let's check out the first one. My slow basket. It has 4 items. I'm guessing aortic stenosis is there because of the slow rising pulse that's typical in severe cases. Let's reveal the items and see. Yep, slow basket has aortic stenosis, epinephrine, post-exposure prophylaxis to varicella in pregnancy, lentigo maligna melanoma. Nice, I got the aortic stenosis connection right. The other 3, not quite, but that's okay. I'll take this moment to reinforce those links. So why are these here? Lentigo maligna melanoma is included because it develops slowly over time. Epinephrine is here due to its association with narrow pulse pressure, which is also a feature of aortic stenosis. And post-exposure prophylaxis to varicella in pregnancy, I added that because of the delayed timing of acyclovir administration, which I linked to the delayed murmur of aortic stenosis during review. See what basket is helping us do? We're revisiting concepts from months ago, drawing from multiple subjects in a single session, and reinforcing memory through personal associations. And the more I revisit these baskets, the stronger those associations get. It's not just about seeing the item once, it's about repeatedly asking myself why it's there. Every time I check a basket, I'm not just reviewing facts. I'm reinforcing the mental links between them, and eventually those connections start to feel automatic. And hey, Don't be afraid to move items around as your understanding grows. The basket isn't meant to be rigid. Like here, I originally had hydroxychloroquine in my retinopathy basket since it can cause retinopathy. But now that I've mastered that link, what I really need to remember is its safety in pregnancy. So I move it to a different basket to reflect that new priority. You can do the same if you realize an item might help unlock something else just by being grouped differently. That flexibility, that's the real power of this system. Don't be afraid to experiment. Let your practice test results guide you. Let your baskets shift around your current understanding. And finally, focus on your weak baskets, the ones with low or no mastery. Placing items helps a lot, but the goal is full mastery. Even if you don't have access to question banks right now, you can still challenge yourself. Go through those weaker baskets. Ask the same 2 questions. I do this on commutes, while working out, or even just on quick breaks. It's simple and it works. So that's it. Rotational learning in just 3 steps. Start with your highest volume subject. Enact new topics as you go. And cement everything with practice questions. It's simple, personal, and incredibly effective. What starts as scattered facts becomes a connected map, built around your brain, your challenges, and your way of thinking. I made Basket because I wanted to stop forgetting difficult yet important concepts and start building real, lasting understanding. And if that's something you want too, then I hope this gave you a good starting point. Give it a try. You have nothing to lose and so much to gain.